we're in a very interesting point with the journey of AI. Last year, there was a lot of excitement around Gen AI, and beginning of the year, that translated into a lot of activity around agentic AI. Um, and look, this is still very early days with AI implementation, but what we are finding is that we got to a lot of pilots, and those pilots got to a certain point, maybe 50-60% very quickly, but then moving them from that to 80-90% has been very tough, and generally the impact or the ROI from these pilots has still been elusive. So as we end 2025, I think there is a reality check, and while look, there is no doubt, that AI is an overwhelming and extraordinary force for change. I think there is more recognition, more of a realization that it's not that easy, and there is a lot to be done before we realize true ROI from AI. We need to recognize that um, AI is quite different from digital. Yeah, in many ways, we see AI as a continuation of digital transformation. But what's different is that digital was about taking the existing way of doing business and converting that from physical to digital. Now, the dimensions of digital and AI may look similar: personalization, automation, innovation, and new business models. But the magnitude of change that is possible through AI on these dimensions is dramatically different. So, it is not about solving for today, or actually, it's about yesterday, but creating the future. And that's the bit I don't see happening enough. And I think that's what is really what I want to recommend, that we are caught in an incrementalism trap, and we need to break out of that. Instead of trying to modernize what exists today, we have to reinvent. That's a very, very different thought process. The biggest manifestation of this is that most of the AI use cases today are about internal efficiency, or internal operations automation, and you're not going to make a earth shattering, that's very necessary, we have to realize that, but you are not going to realize earth shattering value from that. And there is a need to shift a lot more to the customer. How do we change things for the customer? How do we use AI to drive growth, revenue growth? And that will call for lot more creativity, lot more innovation, lot more of new ways of thinking, as opposed to just working on the existing processes and trying to extract more efficiency from them. Because at one end, it's about saying that, hey, whatever you do, put AI first. Yeah. So when I said, hey, we are caught in an incrementalism trap, where today we seem to be just bolting AI agents onto a fundamentally legacy or very human centric workflow. On one hand, I'm saying that, hey, think what a fully autonomous workflow or way of working would look like. Yeah. Now, that might suggest that the human role is not there, or is probably very limited. But actually, it's far from that, far from that. So, humans have a very different role to play. They have a very important role, but the role is different. And I'll put it in two ways. So, first is human in the loop, which I think is reasonably well understood. That in any process, AI does X, what is left is the context, and thus the context is the role for the human. Yeah. So, in the short and medium term, it's human in the loop, and the context and the domain expertise that leads to that context. That's the human role. But we have to recognize that human in the loop will keep on reducing. It's important today, but it will keep on reducing. What I want to submit is human above the loop. It is not about the existing process. It is not about what we are doing today. It is about something new to be created. And that's a new business. That's a new product. That's a completely new proposition. That's the fundamental opportunity. So, what exists today, almost certainly AI will do it better than humans going forward. That may not be the case today. There are many operational issues, but going forward, AI will do better. So, what will be sustainable for humans is to create the new. That is the human. That is going to be the human edge, the human above the loop. I've just released my third book. It's called Human Edge in the AI Age, and that's really what I focus on. That what is the human edge, and how do you get there? So, the governing thought for me is that um, AI is becoming more human than humans, and in a strange way, as humans, we are becoming narrower. The implication of that is pretty significant. That if we see over the next 15 years, 30 to 30, 35 to 50% of current jobs will go. So that's a big thing, that AI age is, like you can say, is the end of the era of jobs. But as we were discussing, every industry will also go through a disruption, offer new opportunities. So I also call it the age of the era of entrepreneurs. And that is the basic mindset shift from jobs to entrepreneurship. That is the key thing that as humans we need to focus on. And if you kind of anchor on that thought, to me, it is almost going back to the pioneering and adventurous instincts of the early man. I'm not suggesting that we're going to go back to caves, uh, thankfully, but the world, the post industrial revolution world over the last 200, 300 years that we have carefully constructed, I think will also unpack over the next 15, 20 years. And it's almost like a new world that needs to be created, new industries, new enterprises. And that's what, as humans, we have to prepare for. We have to leave the safe harbor of existing jobs and be a creator. And that's where, my call is, to rediscover that pioneering, adventurous, risk-taking instincts. This is going back to our core human DNA, which perhaps we have put too many layers of conservatism and risk management on top of it. And that's my third book. That's where I've created this framework I call the possible framework, which are really about 8 core human values that I believe we need to really focus on. See, with data and well, data is the input for AI, and there has been this explosion, almost unprecedented explosion in data over the last 5, 6 years. Um, you know, 90% of the data of the world has got generated over the last 2 to 3 years. That's quite a remarkable thing, and that's what's led to the explosion of AI. I think the big thing that I see is that how do we move from insights to action? um, that today we are generating a lot of insights, but only a fraction of that is getting translated into action. And I think for both data and AI, that is over the next 12, 18, 24 months. That's the key thing. We spoke about it earlier as well. And the key gap there is really about context. And context requires specific domain understanding. Today, a lot of AI technology that you see is very horizontal. You have the GPUs, you have the LLMs, you have the data platforms. They're all horizontal. But to really break through, from insights to action and get to that next level of specificity, it's the vertical expertise that will be really, really critical. And that's really where I see it going. That I think by the time we are here next year at the AI Summit, we'll see that there will be a talk of a lot more vertical solutions. I think as a leader, it's very important how that you're choosing, helping choose the right spot for your business to operate in. because it's very difficult to fight mega trends. The best thing you can do is to flow with the mega trend as opposed to being this, you know, um, be this standing upright in the face of strong winds. So that's a very important thing, and that requires a certain ability of cutting through the noise and seeing the signal that what are trends which are I like to cash trends which are solid long term trends which will stay constant for 5-10 years, as opposed to capture just very short market opportunities. Because when you're building an enterprise, it's not easy to just play on very very short trends. So I think that would be the first mantra, that you know catch the big mega trends and then align your organization accordingly. The second thing which I've learned is two speed execution, that you need to focus both on the short term and have some real impact, uh, and at the same time the speed too, which is the big picture. I think in the AI age that becomes more important than ever. There is a lot of reinvention to be done. We spoke about it, but equally, if we don't take actions today, it will be meaningless. So, I'm a big votary of two-speed execution. And finally, I would say that any business, there are two axes, and you should never forget them, which is client and people. That clients are the only reality. That and if you can make your clients successful, whatever may be the nature of businesses, whether it's a consulting business, it's a product business, if you deliver true value to your clients, you will grow as a firm. And the second is people, that whatever may be the nature of business, and even in this AI age, the people aspect, if anything, becomes even more important. So yeah, those would be my three mantras. Focus on the big trends. Align with those big trends to speed execution, both short term, very concrete impact, but also speed too, which is the bigger picture. And finally, it's about mastering this duality of both client and people at the same time.